Welcome back, everybody. This is episode number 14 of The Final How. And this week we have on Mr. JD Piatt from Bustin Fur. And JD, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, buddy. Appreciate it. Thanks for the invite.
Hey, thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. How's deer season go, or how'd it go for you this year over there?
I'm still hunting.
Oh man.
Just waiting on that right one to walk out, and he just hasn't walked out. He walks out an hour after I leave. So
Understand.
been a long season, but I'm still battling. We've got till first weekend in February to get her done with archery equipment. So, but
Well, it's late season over there. Is that pretty good for you guys, or
yeah, it does. It gets good. That's like I've got a 40-acre farm, and just last night I had 3 new bucks show up that have not stepped foot on this farm that I know of all year long. And trail cameras got pictures of them. I was like, well, they shuffle around, which I'm sure they do where you're at. We've got snow on the ground and pretty cold temperatures right now, so they're all kind of grouping up and shifting around place to place, and hopefully now I can get her done. One of them's definitely a shooter.
that's
So,
awesome. Well,
you
hopefully
know,
the temperatures aren't going to be too brutal for you sitting out there.
I bought me one of them Titan ground blinds, so
Oh,
and
that's
it could get as cold as it wants now.
dude, that is a game changer. I got a couple blinds. I started hunting a couple box blinds probably 3, 4 years ago.
Yeah,
And it does make it a lot easier when it gets like this out, like, I'll just go sit in that blind with my buddy and
that
eat her.
exactly. Yes, sir.
Uh,
But
I guess we'll jump right into it here. Want to kind of tell everybody what got you started in it and kind of go from there.
hey, what got me started was I don't know 14 years old, and I loved to trap, and I did a lot of trapping, and my main focus was fox because Ohio at that time didn't have coyotes. I'm 55 years old this year, and started 12, 14 years old trapping the fox, and then started calling the fox, gray fox particularly, and finally learned how to do it, was successful. And then our gray fox numbers just petered out and dropped off. And so then it shifted to the red fox, and red fox were a lot harder. And then the coyotes started moving in, and when they moved in, they took over my focus. I was dead set on learning how to call and kill a coyote. Um, at that time, with red lights, nighttime didn't prove very effective because they didn't come like a fox would. They wasn't bold, and would just come right into the caller with a light hitting them in the face. So I switched tactics and went to daytime calling, and that was a pretty rough learning curve, learning how to call and kill them in the daytime. But I eventually did it because I was bullheaded and hard headed and wouldn't quit. But anyhow, learned how to kill them in the daytime, and vocalizations were a big part of my success. So learning their vocals, using their vocals against them to kill them, is where I was, successful. And I did a lot of that with hand calls. So, we didn't have like what we've got available now with tons of sound files and guys like myself, recording these animals and providing them for hunters to use on electronic game callers. So, it was all hand calls and killing coyotes. And then in 2008, I went out to Kansas, got in the World Expo, stage calling competition, the first there was in years for the Predator world, and I ended up winning the coyote vocalizations leg of the stage calling. So it earned me a world title in coyote vocalizations. That led to which at the same time I was doing a lot of filming whitetail hunts, filming the coyote hunts. And that led to when ICOtec became a company, they reached out to me and wanted me to try one of their callers, and I did, and I liked it. Had great remote range, great sound, good sounds were on it. They had leased sounds from WT at the time to put on the callers. So, I was successful with their equipment right off the bat, and I was getting footage for them, and then it just kind of led into, hey, would you come? Not necessarily work for them. I'm a subcontractor through ICOtec, but I handled their customer service. I recorded animal sounds to, so that they didn't have to lease those sounds from WT any longer. And that's where I got started with the recording the sounds. So actually, no, but let me back up. Me and a buddy that was doing some filming together, Brent Saxton, out of Southern Ohio, we had recorded some of our hand calling stuff, and that was 2005. And we were going to sell those sounds back then on CDs, on
Right.
compact discs. That's how long ago it was. But we sold a few. We recorded us howling with howlers and hand calling and all that. And sold a few, but it wasn't big like it is now. So, and actually, a couple of those sounds from 2005, I do have in my library now that's available on BFA, which one of them is called Spaz Rabbit. And I've got guys all over the country that are like, that's the killingest, sound they've ever used. So, which is, I love it. That's me on a
Right.
hand call in
That's awesome.
2005. Yeah, it was pretty cool. But, I still use it to this day. It's still killing coyotes for me. But then back to the ICOtec deal. Um, part of what I was doing for them was customer service, repair work on callers, and then recording the animal sounds. And that just, snowballed. I recorded sounds for their library. And then with me being a subcontractor in, what was it, 2020, end of 2022, I was like, we negotiated my contract, and it just worked out to where I was like, I'm going to start my own company, BFA, and provides, sounds for guys to use. So that's kind of how BFA was born.
That's an awesome story, man. Uh,
Thanks.
how how many coyotes? I guess you mind saying how many coyotes do you have? Because you raise them, correct? Right.
Yes. Yeah, I get them. I started out, in Ohio, you have to have a propagation permit in order to have them. So, and you can't take them out of the wild. So there's a guy in Ohio that supplies the trapping industry with urine. And I contacted
Okay.
him and got hooked up and would buy pups from him in the spring. So that started in 2018 when I started doing that. Got a handful of pups from him, and then the ones that wouldn't perform, I'd trade off for new pups and get new pups and keep the ones that perform and get rid of the other ones back to him. And now my coyotes are breeding themselves, so I'm able to,
Just have a continuous cycle of them, basically.
yeah. But right now I'm at 10 coyotes.
Wow. Do you do you ever really notice as far as how their behavior, like, I guess kind of what I'm getting after is like, you always kind of hear people say they got individual personalities,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like we do.
Yeah.
I guess with you being among them, I mean, you can really say that they do have an individual
Oh, yeah.
personality.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's some that are it's best way I like to explain it is they're just like dogs. You go to pick out a little beagle puppy, and there's six of them. Mama had six of them, and two of them run right up to you, and they're jumping on your leg, and you're petting them. You're trying to pick the pup out. Two of them keep their distance, but aren't that scared of you. You can touch them, and then you got two that are in the corner. They absolutely want nothing to do with you, and it's scared to death of you. Same with coyotes. They're the exact same. So those more bolder coyotes, those are the ones that they end up doing the best for me too. Some of the shy ones that stay in the corner, I can get some good howls and whatnot out of them, but they're hard to handle because they'll bite you when you try and handle the others, that are bold that come up to you.
Right.
I can bond with them and give them attention, and they like attention just like a dog. Um, so that helps. I can easily handle them like Apollo. He's my oldest male that I have. He's damn near like a dog. I mean, I can go in the kennel with him. He jumps up on me and I pet him, and time to go get some house, buddy. And I got a carrying crate that I put him in, and off we go, do our thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
they
was always kind of curious on how that how that worked and how that went about. Like, how are you able to like capture them dudes to do that, or how exactly do you get those sounds, get them to respond that certain way?
yeah, there's ways I can trick them into responding, howling,
Okay.
but they and to get the things that we need as hunters, I've got to separate them. So separating them is an issue, or not an issue, but it's a chore, especially
Right.
the ones that don't like me or don't trust me. I'll put it away. They're schizophrenic. That's the best way I can explain it. I mean, they're little schizophrenics.
Well, I think that's awesome. Like to be able to, I guess, live among them and you can tell versus like when we go out, you hear them howling, and I'm not gonna say one way or the other how anybody is, but some people be like, "Oh, well, I know exactly that's a female back there, and she's pissed off." Well,
No, you ain't gonna tell.
see, I kind of thought that myself. I don't have anything to back it up. I'm just a hunter.
Yeah,
I've never raised them, been around a biologist or anything, but it's like,
yeah,
sometimes I think you can kind of hear if it's a big old male when it's got like a lot of baritone in its voice. But and there's been times I've thought like, oh yeah, you hear how deep that is. You call them in if it is the same dog or coyote. You shoot it and it's a big old female.
yeah, yeah. I got a female beans. It, out in the wild, you'd think she was a male, just screaming. She's every howl from her's got an attitude. She just lives with an attitude. But yeah, I wholeheartedly don't think you can tell between a male and a female. And even I, I don't go as far as naming my sounds male, female, other than a few. And it's not because I would expect somebody to use it as a male coyote howl specifically to portray a male coyote howl. It's because when I'm recording 50, 60 howls a year, it's hard to come up with names. So male or female may get thrown in there
Right.
because
Well, I've always thought you guys are creative as crap with your sounds or your
yeah,
names of your sounds. Like some of them, man, are like, oh, that's got to be a good one. Listen to it or listen to the name of it.
yeah. I try and name it according to the content of the file, the sound, but it gets hard.
Right.
And make sure the next guy doesn't have one already named that, but that's hard in itself too.
Do you, I guess, kind of go down this side when you're out calling coyotes? Do you ever think that you can be too aggressive with a howl right off the get go?
For
Or,
sure. Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
that's why I guess I'm trying to figure out how to word this question. I know what I'm thinking in my head, but like as far as like invitation, like they say there's invitation howls. I know like more of a challenge howl, like when they're just going crazy. But I guess as far as that goes, can you kind of go to different sounds or styles of howls a particular coyote might have, what he's saying?
Can I decipher what they're saying?
Or kind of, right. Yeah.
Not really. I mean, I don't want to say not really, but when they're responding back, I'm listening to what their response is. If four coyotes respond back to me vocally, I'm listening and hoping there's one in there that's got an attitude like Beans that's aggressive. If that's the case, then I can play on that. I'm calling to that one coyote because if I can get that one coyote pissed off enough to approach me, come in, the others are going to follow. They're going to come with it. So I focus on that pissed off one, and then I get back aggressive to just tell the story and piss them off.
I guess that's
And
kind of what I was getting after there was, picking out that one that find that more
yeah,
aggressive.
yeah, yeah, feed on that aggression and
Right.
give it right back to them because they don't like it. You're
Right.
on turf. So I when I set up a coyote stand and start it, if I'm running 100% vocals, I'm telling them a story. I'm building up the intensity to the end. And it'll start out with a lone howl just to introduce myself and a second coyote. So I'll run two different lone howls. And it may be two males that I kind of blend together, or it may be male female. But I don't um I don't specifically go male female to tell them that there's a mating pair on their turf or anything like that. Just the simple fact that there's coyotes on their turf will piss them off. They don't
Right.
care if it's male or female, young or old. They don't want you there because that's their territorial ground that they're going to use for rearing their pups.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I guess I'm real super interested in coyote vocals. A couple years ago, let me back up here. So I used to always just run rabbit distress.
mhm.
When I was younger, I mean, when I kind of started coyote hunting, it was with a Johnny Stewart cassette tape.
Yep,
You just had the screaming rabbit. You just plugged it in. That's all I had.
right.
And vocals, the guys around me were always like, "Oh, you can't play vocals. You're going to scare them. You're going to piss them off. They're not going to come in." Blah blah blah. Well, a couple of years ago, I start really messing with them and trying to figure out that what that coyote is saying, I guess, or when I just let off a lone howl, are they going to challenge me back, or you know, what the scenario is reading, I guess is probably the best way to put that. But what I'm really trying to figure out is the difference between a male and a female, if that has any oh, correlation to them wanting to respond.
I'm honestly not sure. They're okay. You set up, you throw that lone howl out there, you get one to respond or two to respond at you. One's pissed off and the other's just, responding. You call them both in and kill both of them unless they visually showed you. And a lot of times it's a female that I've seen that's visually showed us, like with a thermal,
Right.
into the field, and she's just bouncing on her front feet, just screaming, and we'll kill them. Male, female. The female was usually the one that's doing all the screaming and got the attitude. But then again, males, I've seen plenty of males come in and do that stuff, you know, pissed off.
Right.
So and I've got my theories on breeding seasons and everybody, breeding sounds and all that. Coyotes are monogamous. It's not like a whitetail rut where a whitetail buck's running around trying to nail every doe he can nail because he only gets it once a year. Coyotes are monogamous. Males and females, I mean, hell, they're probably more faithful than humans are to each other. So that male coyote's not running around trying to nail every female coyote he can find. It's
Right.
more so about the territory to me. And if you focus more on the territory versus trying to find a breeding sound, you're probably going to kill just as many, if not more, coyotes. My
Let's kind of
theory.
let's kind of talk about that a little bit because I find that interesting. I learned that a year or so ago about how coyotes are monogamous like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I was kind of always under a bunch of false information or whatever about them that, you know, you could get a male come screaming in and bust the other one out and like, oh, he's going to take his woman. And then another one comes in 2 weeks later. Like, I think that's real interesting how until one of them basically gets killed.
Death do 'em part, right? Till death do 'em part. They are
Yeah.
they are together. Even in the summer, they'll hang together. Um, More so in the winter when they are going to breed and they are going to raise those pups in that established territory. They're diehard committed to each other. So
How big of a how big of a territory in general, like for the, I guess your more Midwestern coyotes, Indiana, Ohio, Illinois area, how big of an area do you think generally they call home?
it's all got to do with the population. I mean, the the lower the population, the bigger their territory. The more, higher population, the more they're confined to calling their own little spot their spot. I learned that trapping. When I first started trapping coyotes, I'd put a set out. I might have action on a Monday, all right, for example, and it might be 3, 4 days before coyote ever come back through. And that's with snow on the ground and being able to visually see this. So that told me they're roaming far. They're roaming big. Um, when we first started hunting at night and we started out with night vision, when all this new equipment
Right.
started on, it's been about 8, 9, 10 years now. It wasn't, the numbers here in my area were so high, pretty much everywhere we went, we threw out a lone howl, we got a vocal response back. So they were confined tight to damn near every block. There was a pack of coyotes in. Well, after 8, 9, 10 years of killing them, and not only myself, there's a lot of guys around here doing it now, and some of them successful. Uh, the numbers are down. They're not like where they were. So now they're spread out, get a little bit bigger area to roam. They may not be in this block tonight. They may be 2 blocks over. So that's got a lot to do with it. Their numbers, population.
And I was kind of, that's what I was kind of getting for. Cause I think the same thing because that's the
Mm-hmm.
way it was around here. I mean, Billy and I talk about that all the time. Like, man, it used to be 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago before really coyote hunting was cool, before it was the fad
Yeah.
when we go out and it was nothing to, you could drive to every, we're cut up in square miles here.
Yeah.
You could go to every mile and have 4 or 5 dogs answer back to you,
Yep.
respond. Like it was, I don't want to say it was easy. I mean, you still had to play your wind and do everything right, but
Right.
you were very effective. And now it seems like they're more spread out. They're, I've never really noticed boundaries before. I've heard people talk about how coyotes will just have a hard line in the sand, like a boundary.
Mm-hmm.
Never really noticed that. Never like always thought, man, that's kind of a crazy theory. This
Yeah.
year, I don't know what has changed. Maybe it's the population's down, so they're more territorial, bigger. I don't know. But I have noticed in 4 or 5 of my spots that I guess never had this issue before, but they'll come to a certain spot every time. Stop. Done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They don't want to cross it because they don't want their butts whooped. So
So
that's
that is, I guess, a
I've got
legit
in the
thing.
middle of them. Had coyotes on both sides of me at night with thermal, being able to see both me and them, and they would not. They'd raise hell. They'd scream and holler, both groups, but they would not come to me, approach me. So
Right.
it's
And
fun.
yeah, I just something that's always, I've never really noticed until this year.
Mm-hmm.
And there's definitely, I mean, because nowadays in my area, uh, there's, I mean, there's a guy with a thermal behind every tree out here now. I mean, it is
Same,
crazy the amount of coyote hunters.
same here.
So, and
I
I'm
love this.
sure pressure's got a lot to do with it too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And somebody else may have set up in the same spot and shot one of three or two of four or whatever. And
Right.
they may have been with the ones that got shot, and it just clicks and hits them that, oh, nope. Last time I did that, it wasn't good.
Right.
Yeah. It's like now we're running into, we'll pull in, scan, when we're getting our stuff out of the back of the truck, and there might be a couple pair of coyotes out in the field, 500-600 yards out, and turn the collar on. It's like you just start shooting at them. They take off running the other way as fast as they can go. So
I've had that happen this year.
it's the popularity is, has
Yeah. And
its,
that's
I'll put it that way.
right. That's what I try to tell most guys. Like, guys, I see guys getting that argument of, you know, not, if somebody else has got permission, don't be asking. And I kind of get all of that. But if you don't know, you don't know. But around me in a square mile, you could have 8 different landowners.
Right.
And, you know, I, it always seems like now too, I go knock on somebody's door, it's their grandson or their nephew or somebody. Oh, he's getting into it. So he's hunting now. So it's like,
Yeah.
well, if you get 6 different people permission, you don't know when somebody was just there 2 hours ago, 20 minutes ago. If they're, heck, they could be over there calling. There's been plenty of times
Yeah.
I've been sitting there and I, let off a howl, and then I'll hear
No.
a serenade, like a serenade, a challenge, like it's somebody. I'm like, well, that's definitely not coyote. Like that's that's an e-caller there. Somebody just going nuts over there.
Yeah, yeah, I've had that happen to me with my own sounds. Somebody with my sounds answer me back.
Like I know that.
Luna, that's Luna.
I know her.
Yeah, yeah, but
Yeah.
it's fun, and the part you mentioned about landowners, and I know if we're always looking for new land. Um, I've got a lot of land because I've done it for so long around here and successful. And everybody knows that when you're successful killing coyotes, everybody's like, hey, come kill them at my place, and
Right.
that just piles up the land. But if I'm out looking for land and I knock on a door and the landowner tells me, yes, you can coyote hunt, but so does Jim down the road. He calls it too. Then I'll politely tell him thanks, but no thanks, because just like you said, you don't know when Jim was there last, what Jim done last, or if Jim's going to be across the field while you're there too. So that's
Right.
my that's my thoughts on not stepping on anybody's toes.
I just
And
kind of started taking the approach of, you know, guys that I have a couple different farmers that I have permission from, that I know these guys are old school, and anybody knocks on their door, they're going to be like, yep, sure, go kill them all. Don't care.
kill
So
them all. Yeah,
I kind of just started telling them guys like, hey man, like, do you mind if somebody does call, just give them my name and tell them to shoot me a message, find me on Facebook, or, give them my number. I don't care.
mm-hmm.
And then that way, at least I can be like, hey man, okay, you're going to be all right. If you can kind of tell by somebody right away if it's somebody that's going to be out there calling it every single night,
Yeah.
or somebody that's like, hey man, yeah, I have a farm down the road. I hear them howl over there. I might call it once a month. At
Right.
least you can start a relationship with somebody, so you're not
Work together
right.
against each other. Right.
because at least in my area, man, I used to be that way, like, oh, somebody else is calling it. I'm done. I'm not going to do it. It's gotten so dang popular. I might only have 1,000 acres that are truly solely, and that is if, and I know it. Other guys are, it's 2 a.m. I know guys are, I guess you can say poaching them. They're trespassing, but you know, so I try to work with the other guys the best I can to.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's getting to be so many people now that that's what it's going to take. So,
Right. And have
but
you noticed? I did, I guess, a, a bit of daytime hunting, but when I got real serious is 5, 6 years ago when I got a thermal. But have you noticed a big difference between daytime calling and nighttime calling?
yeah, I don't daytime call hardly anymore in Ohio because I got to work. I got to work
Right.
for it. That's what it all boils down to. I mean, I would average 1 in 20 stands when I was daytime only calling. I think maybe some years would be a little bit better depending on the population, but 1 to 20 stands. That's a whole weekend's worth of calling, daylight to dark,
Right.
parking truck, walking 300 yards away from it, or you know, hiding in the weeds in the bushes or fence rows or wherever for hopefully one coyote or one call in out of a weekend versus going out in my truck at night with a thermal and walking 50 yards from the truck and hit, shooting 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 coyotes a night,
Right.
depending on how good the night is. So I don't daytime call anymore in Ohio unless like right now it's cold. We got snow on the ground. Then I do like to take a shotgun and go in the woods right in with them, do some calling. I
Yeah,
haven't
that's
done
something I haven't. I this year I was kind of telling myself that I need to get out maybe during the day with a shotgun. Back for one, kind of take you back to your roots, I guess, when I
that.
started.
Yeah, we don't want to lose the woodsmanship.
Right. And I think that's a huge, we can go down that rabbit hole because I love that rabbit hole because I think that is one of the, it's a dying art and it pisses me off.
Yeah,
I was raised my mom and dad, none of them were hunters. I kind of just was watching stuff on TV in the 90s and was like, oh, that's cool. I want to do that. We lived in the country. So I started just going through the woods. And man, I had a lot of old timers around me that they, I learned how to squirrel hunt, the rabbit hunt, and all by looking at tracks and finding out where they are and where they're going. And now, man, guys are getting into it and they just want that easy. Oh,
yeah.
I can spend, you know, $1,000 on this and a $6,000 thermal and a $4,000 gun, and I'm going to go kill coyotes. It's happening. Go out, do it. Doesn't happen. They get discouraged and they're like, oh, what the hell? You
Or
know, and
they
they
go out,
badmouth it.
or they go out and they're in a good area and they kill coyotes using that stuff and with shoddy ethics or whatever, maybe or maybe not. I don't know. I ain't accusing anybody of anything, but kill coyotes, and then they're the best there is. It's all
Right.
about numbers to these guys on social media. Got to kill 10 coyotes a night, or you ain't nobody, or that
Oh, yeah.
shit.
That pisses me off big time. I hate that.
I'm the same way. I just laugh and scroll on,
Yeah.
but and just do my thing. But yeah, it's the as the popularity grows, there's all kinds of egos that come with it, and it's fun
Right. And
to watch.
that's part of the reason why I kind of, yeah, I started doing this podcast was I started, I guess my wife and a few of my buddies get tired of me just, I'd be sitting there scrolling on my phone, doom scrolling or whatever while you're waiting on something. And I'll just be like, what the and I'll just get cussing these guys like, like, who do you think you are, man? Like, and they're like, won't you? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't think anybody really cares what I got to say sometimes, but I,
There's,
yeah,
I'm,
at the same time, I don't want to see the woodsmanship die. The heritage and what it all comes together to go out to be able to harvest and fool a coyote or a whitetail buck or whatever it is you're hunting.
mm-hmm,
Like, man, when you can fool a predator, in my eyes, you you're a pretty
accomplished.
dang good hunter, right?
Coyotes are tough. Coyotes are. I used to think smart until I started raising them. Kind of got a little different philosophy there now, but um, there's something. I'll put it that way. But yeah, when you beat one in the field and call one in, especially in the daylight, it's a whole different ball game than it is with the thermal at night. And I'm glad to say that I cut my teeth daytime calling and was one, very successful.
I think
So
you can tell a difference in guys too on how they carry themselves. I guess as a predator hunter, the guys that just have never experienced daytime calling just went straight to the high dollar thermal game and started killing them versus that guy that, like you were saying, would make 20 stands to kill one coyote.
yeah,
I
yep,
I think you can really tell the separation.
for sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
all through ego, but
right. Yeah, because heck, when we go out, if we can kill, if we hunt all night long, and I can put 4 or 5 in the back of the truck, I'm like, okay. And I capitalized 100% on my opportunities.
yeah,
That's the way I look at it. Like,
yeah,
if we called in 6 that night and had 6 chances, I only get mad if there's not 6 in the back of the truck. Not that there's not 10 or 12 or 15. It's like, well, just because you heard them howling a mile away doesn't mean they're coming. I don't
right,
look at that as an opportunity. I look if they're 300 yards in my wheelhouse and they're not in the back of the truck, that's when I get upset. But I
yep,
don't, I used to kind of chase that, I guess, when I first got in the thermal game, when you start seeing everybody piling up. Well, you start seeing these guys pile up 15, 20, 25 coyotes a night. And I was like, what the heck, man? Like, I don't even see. Then you kind of start looking into it. It's like, oh, boy's in New Mexico with a thermal. That
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah. I've never thermal hunted New Mexico, but I have in Texas, and it's a totally different world than what we are in up here. A
Right.
lot of coyotes down there.
Yeah.
I, I used to say hunting here with a thermal was equivalent to daytime hunting out west. When it came to the numbers of coyotes average, like per stand. Like here, when I first started, it was one in every 2 stands. We were calling a coyote, killing a coyote, or whatever. Now it's about 1 in 4, um, which out west it was about 1 in 4 daytime when I hunted out west quite a bit, Arizona, New Mexico in the day. Um, it was kind of equivalent
That's
nighttime
about what
there.
I'd say that's about what we average. I'd say 1 out of 3 to 1 out of 4 stands we
And
get
then
an opportunity.
there's guys out west that a lot of those states are opening up to nighttime with thermals and whatnot. And I thought, oh my, their arms are going to be wore out and dragging and loading dead coyotes. And they're not. I mean, yeah, they're killing a lot of coyotes, but not like what I thought they would. Which just goes to show that country out there is just so big. There's no houses or anything like that. It's just country that it's hard to find them. You know,
Right.
get on them
Yeah,
unless you got
that's
a ranch that's got a dead pile or whatever. Then there's going to be 20, 30 coyotes in that area pretty much every night. Just stay close to that. Maybe
Right.
not on top of it, but close. So, but
Yeah. I think that's where that's kind of a you get hearing people arguing back and forth with daytime versus nighttime or western versus eastern, and it's like, man, it's a whole different world, guys. Like, even yeah, coyote's a coyote, I get that to a point, but at the same time, calling a coyote during the day in north central Indiana where there's 30 houses per mile is
yeah,
a lot different than calling a coyote during the day in West Texas or
right,
West Kansas,
right.
or the Sand Hills, wherever it is you are. It's a lot different.
Yeah. They dogs barking, people on lawnmowers, traffic up and down the roads. It's just a whole different world. So, they're in their schizophrenia
Right,
keeps them from getting on their feet in the daytime. I mean, you really gotta have everything right in the daytime for them to feel comfortable enough to approach and come in, or they've got to be desperate, or they've got to be pissed because it's
right,
territorial. So, you know, focus on one of those three.
right. And
Successful in
that's,
the
do you kind of think that when you're calling them at night, back to thermals and what we're doing, I guess, and calling them, if you notice coyotes working that downwind side a lot further and a lot more than they have in the past for you? Or is that just something I'm seeing is crazy? I guess what
no,
I'm kind of getting after, to kind of give you an example, I love to call crossed winds, and I kind of like to somewhat give them the wind in a way for the caller.
yeah,
And I'll set that call in front of me 30, 40 yards, then go upwind with it 40, 50 yards. So that way, thinking that coyote is, when he's coming to that call, is going to be more or less right in front of me.
right.
Now it seems like 9 times out of 10, I'm seeing these coyotes work 150 to 200 yards downwind of that call more than I ever have. Is that something you guys are maybe seeing more of, or is it just
Yeah,
possibly I'm just in a high pressure area?
um, yeah, no, we're seeing that, especially with prey distress. When we're running a prey distress, that's typically, and it's a single coyote or a pair. Um, and one of the pair lays back, just isn't quite sure, but one of them's, just dying to come in. Yeah, we see they're working the wind further than what they did when we first started. I mean, when I first started at night with night vision, there wasn't no such thing as wind, worrying
Right.
about the wind. There were so many coyotes, they were just straight to the damn caller. But I've got my theory on part of why we're seeing that, and that is comparing from the years I started with night vision and thermal to now, and the amount of people that are doing the popularity. Back to that litter of beagle puppies, you got the ones that come run up and jump up on your leg, and that's how I explain that. We're killing for years now. We've killed those aggressive coyotes, those bold coyotes, those ones that just come to the collar. We're leaving those ones that hide in the corner to do all the breeding. So, are they breeding in that skepticism, that fear, that lack of approach? Are we seeing that after 5, 6, 7, 8 years of killing those aggressive bold coyotes? I don't know.
That's
But
very interesting. I like that. I like that theory. I've
that's
never
something.
ever thought of that.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that for the last couple of years because there's still coyotes around and just not as receptive. Is it due to pressure, which we definitely have the damn pressure? There's so many people doing it now. Is some of it got to do with killing those bold ones and leaving those shy ones behind to do all the breeding?
That's a
But
real good point there. That makes complete sense because I guess when
yeah,
you think of his dog breeding or whatever, like,
yeah, we
the pick of the litter, and then you want to breed that with the next pick of the litter. So
correct.
that makes real good sense.
Hmm. That's something I thought about for a few years. What are we going to see in 10? We're going to have a
Right.
predator now that we can't kill other than murdering it from the
Right.
road over a bait
Yeah.
box.
It's, I mean, I think out of all the coyotes I've killed so far this year, I can only think of maybe a couple that actually come
Where
charging to the call.
I know, same here.
And it was both of them were females, the pup distress, and that was a month and a half, 2 months ago.
Dude, I used to see 4 or 5 at a time hauling ass. I mean, just like circling you like sharks
Right.
up over, those aggressive fight type sounds. Not anymore. I ain't seeing that.
No, it almost seems like if you can, if you're hunting bigger country, it's like, okay, I can see him a half a mile out there, and you hit some kind of pup distress or something that really gets them fired up. You'll watch them run like, they're ripping and then they get about 3, 4, 500 yards from you. And then it's almost like they check up.
Yeah.
Then they start going into that sneaky mode. They'll start working way downwind, using the ditches, ravines, fence rows, and they're almost circling you before they come in.
I mean, I've got videos from my scopes, in the early days shooting them damn near right on top of the collar. I ain't killed one. Now, if I kill one with the collar and the screen of my thermal, I'm like, damn, that one was close. you know,
Right.
where before they was coming right by you, running. I mean, you hear them before you'd see them. They're running under your gun, and it was crazy back, years ago. And the guy that hunts with me now, Darren, he didn't hunt then. He just got into it in the last few years, and I tell him all these stories about all, you know, some of the coyote stands I've made on places will be, and he missed out. He's not seeing it
Right. Yeah.
now. It used to be we'd go out there and throw a howl out, and they were answering us. I mean, hell, now we're seeing, I don't know what percentage. I would guess 75% of the year we're calling coyotes that will not vocally respond back to us. It's got to be perfect conditions for them to be howling in response to us.
I've
So some
noticed that.
now it's like it was a success because we heard the damn things. We may not have killed one, but we heard them. So
Right.
it's definitely changed.
Yeah. I would go to say, like, when you hear guys talk about like the heydays of whitetails and all that, the heydays of coyote hunting, I believe we are past those.
We are.
Like that was
We,
4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, 10 years ago. Like the beginning
we
of the thermal game, like we talk about that all the time. Like it used to, you could. I usually drive my Ranger around. I used to be able to pull into any field, get out of the truck, hit the scanner, and there they'd be. And they
yeah,
weren't really spooked off. They'd be 300 yards out there, kind of look at you, go back to mousing.
exactly.
You could get set up, and you didn't even have to really set the call out. You could just lip squeak, and boy,
Yep.
they'd turn around and they just
Run to you,
run right
shoot them.
into you. Yep.
Yeah,
It's like, heck yeah. Like, let's just, I mean, I can remember even bringing the shotgun a few times when we had snow and a moon, more thermal hunting, but it's like, man, these things, why not bring a shotgun? Do it like the old days, If
yeah,
if they want to charge to play that game, I love playing that game. There's nothing better than shotgunning them.
exactly. Those days are gone. Now
Yeah.
it's just, and think of what it's going to be like in 10 years. They're really going to be tough, I think.
Yeah. I've
Damn
never
here,
thought of
yeah,
that before.
yeah,
Yeah. That's a really good point you have there. Like, if when makes perfect sense when all of the, I guess you don't want to call them dumb ones, I want all the smart ones and the skittish ones
or left.
that's, yeah, sit up on the hill and watch their buddies go in and get murdered.
Yeah,
And they
yeah.
just keep breeding and keep breeding. Basically, you're going to breed that right into them.
Pass that gene along. But
Right.
then, I don't know. I'll kind of pay attention to that as I as he's breeding, keep raising the coyotes to see what, if they pass it on here, they'll pass it on in the wild.
Right.
Because most of my female coyotes that I record, they tend to be skittish. The males like Moto and Apollo, I can handle them, pet them, they come to me. But the females, they're they're just naturally more fearful of me, skittish of me, and that's it. I've raised them since their eyes were just opened, bottle fed them, but they still
Wow.
turn that way. So
That's interesting. So is there, does that kind of hold true with coyotes? I know I'm bouncing all over, but uh you get them before their eyes are open or after their eyes are open
when
when
I
they're
would get
put.
them
I
from
guess.
when I was starting out, I'd get them right as their eyes open, which is about 14 days old, and then I'd bottle feed them for about 3 weeks, so that I could try and get that bond.
Right.
It worked with Luna and Apollo, and Luna is the only female that I've ever had that was an exception to the male female, the females being skittish of me. Luna was, of course, she was uh, with me a lot because I would bring her in my office when she was a tiny little puppy and leave her in the office with me all day long. And she spent a lot of time with me, so which that's what it took. But then, I mean, as an adult, she was protective over me. She did not like my wife. My
Really?
wife, yeah, my wife walked out to the kennel with me, she would growl and snarl and pin her ears back at my wife. Yeah. So, and it got to the point where she got so aggressive, I ended up getting rid of her because if she ever got out of that kennel, which she did, her and Apollo got out one time. We got German shepherds, and they somehow the shepherd managed to get the door open, and they got out, and I was out here in my shop working, and I heard squalling and growling and all that carrying on, going by my door. What the hell? And I open it up, and Rogue's got two coyotes hanging off his ass, dragging them to the front porch of the house. That was fun. Separating them, got them separated, got the two coyotes back in the kennel. But yeah, if Luna ever got out, and she could, as protective as she was with me, I didn't want my wife getting bit by her.
Right.
So I ended up trading her back off for new pups. But it's been an interesting ride doing what I'm doing. It's I enjoy it. Enjoyed recording a sound, going out, testing that sound, and the satisfaction of it working. So the vocals are almost 100%. I mean, coyotes are coyotes, and they respond to vocalizations. The prey distress stuff that I've done is where it's really gratifying when you record it, create it, test it. Some of my bird distress is like the blue jay and the frantic cardinal, and what was the third one? Oh, the frantic woodpecker. Very first time ever playing them through a caller, killed coyotes using them. So it's like, that's a winner. That's a
Right.
winner.
Yeah.
So
That's
yeah,
instant gratification for sure.
yeah, yeah, love it. I
That's
love creating the files and people, using them and having success with them. So
right. And they
right,
can, your website's bustinfur.com, correct?
correct. Yep.
Okay. And you can buy individual sounds. A guy can you have package deals on there too, don't you?
Yes, I got bundles on there, and I tried to create the bundles to, meet everybody's needs. But I'm constantly recording, so there's new things going in. I'm going to start working on new bundles for 2025. But yeah, there's bundles, individual sales, bulk sales, apparel, all the good stuff, fun stuff.
All the fun stuff.
Yeah.
And your sounds work in I guess they don't work in just an ICOtec call. Can I use them in my Lucky Duck call or a Fox Pro call or?
Yeah, I've got WAV files and MP3 files for an option. When you
Okay.
check out, pick one or the other. So I know I started out ICO only, and then that rolled over to WAV files, and then the Lucky Duck guys were wanting them, and the Lucky Duck will only play an MP3 file. So I
Okay.
offered three now.
Yeah,
So
see, that's stuff that I don't quite understand either. Like you start talking different file names and all that. It's like, I don't know. I just bought this call. What's it use?
yeah, the Fox Pros I think do both WAV and MP3. ICOtec used to do both WAV and MP3, and then last upgrade when they went to the Plus models, they did away with the MP3 option, and then Lucky Duck only MP3. So it's kind of tough to meet all the demands, but you want to supply everybody with good sounds. That's what you got to do. So that's what I've done.
What's the what's the difference between I see a lot of people talking about this 24-bit and 16-bit sounds for files.
That
What exactly is that?
those are compressions and file sizes. So you've got the standard years ago was always 16-bit, and then you got 24-bit and 32-bit. Um, I don't know. As far as I do everything with headphones, all right, with
Okay.
editing, I'll create or output a 16-bit sound file. I'll output a 24-bit out file, and I'll output a 32-bit out file or file. Uh, because I record in 32-bit. So I can't tell the difference. I'll play the 16 in my headphones, 24, 32. I can't tell the difference. The human ear can only hear to 20,000 hertz. So do those bits and those compression rates and all that bit equate to what a coyote can hear? I
Right.
don't know. I've ran 24-bit files and had the same file in 16-bit on my caller at the same time. I've run them both. Neither one shined over the other.
That's what I know. That's kind of why I was asking is, I see a lot of people asking that question or, like, oh, this is 20. And it's like, man,
I get it
does
all the
it,
time.
yeah, does it really matter? I mean, I don't even know what bit my sounds are. I don't have a clue. They could be 24. They could be 16. But all I know is a coyote, if it sounds good to the coyote at the time, they come into a freaking cassette tape, with truck speakers wired to it. I
Exactly.
mean,
Exactly. Look, Lucky Duck, MP3. MP3 is a compressed file that's, I don't even know if it's 16-bit equivalent, when it comes to a wave.
right.
Plenty of coyotes dying to MP3 sounds on Lucky Duck callers. Tebby, all his sounds were MP3s. Plenty of coyotes dying to all his sounds. So I don't know if it's I work with a call company, but I'm not in the marketing and all that. But I would say it's a marketing ploy. It might be bad for me to say publicly, but it's there. I've tried, a HOW F24
Right.
bit versus a 16-bit does not get a 100% response versus a 16-bit a 50% response. Or there's just no data out there
Right.
there's no.
Well, that's just what I had a guy the other day say something to me like, oh, well, I got to get that because it runs a 24-bit, sound. And I'm like, that's really I've kind of read it and seen it. And then I'm like, maybe I ought to look into this. Maybe this is something. I
Right.
started kind of looking into it, and it's like, I don't really see what,
Benefit. Yeah.
yeah, like I, I'm not going to knock anybody. Like I'll use any collar, anybody. It doesn't matter to me. Like if it works, it's reliable and it's tough and it holds up to what I do. This is me. This is what I'm going to do. But yeah, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole too far. I was just kind of curious what the difference was,
And
what you
most
thought the difference was, if there was a benefit or not.
the callers out there are running paging speakers. Some of them have tweeters on them for the high frequencies. So does that bit rate differ through them, with the tweeters? If they all had stereo speakers, maybe we as humans could hear the difference between them. But only difference between them I see personally is the file size and the amount of space they take up on my hard drives. 24 bits, a lot bigger file than a 16-bit. Same with 32. But I do record everything with a 32-bit recorder. I dumb it down to 16 on my outputs to sell because there's way more 16-bit only capable callers in the market that people are have and are buying sounds for.
Right.
I haven't done anything with 24-bit, 32-bit yet. I do get guys that ask me, and then I throw back at them, have you got 24-bit now, and do you see a big difference over 16-bit? Nobody can answer it.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't seem like it. And I try not to get my information, not saying any company's lying to me or anything like that, but I try never to get my information straight from them because it's like, well, if you have a new product and that's what it is, well, naturally you want to push that. I get
Yeah,
that. It's marketing 101. But at the same time, it's like, well, you're making an $800 investment on some of these calls, like
yeah,
I, I more or less expect it to sound good. Like I'm spending $800, it better sound good. My whole thing is this thing going to hold up? Like,
exactly. Yeah,
you know,
durability. That that's one thing I like about the ICOtecs. I've used all of them. I'm not going to knock any of them, but I will say the ICOtecs are durable callers. They sound good. I beat the piss out of them, rough on
right. Oh, I get it. That's
them. Blood and mud quite often in the back of my truck, and that collar's laying right in there with it, and rained on, snowed on. But
yeah.
that's
Bill gives me crap all the time. He's like, my call right now is it's more or less painted red. It's just covered in blood. And I'm like, yeah, I just throw it in with them. He's like, dude, you're right. I'm like, well, man, they're coming to the smell of the call. If anything, I want it to smell like that.
yeah,
But hell
yeah.
with it. Like
Can't hurt till you get it on your hands and eating a snack at night.
I think of that all the time too, because
Oh,
I chew. So I got a bad habit. After you've handled 4 or 5 or 6 of them, throw them in the truck because I cut
yeah.
the fingers out of my gloves to run the call. Don't think about it, put a chew in, and it's like you kind of smell something. And it's like, oh man.
You get COVID.
No, I don't think I did, but that could be why.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Oh,
All righty. Well, I guess if you want to kind of tell everybody where they can find you and your products and all of that.
yeah, bustinfur.com. Got 175 sounds right now total, with 10 that are probably going to release here pretty soon. And then I've also got, I get a lot of guys message me, and that's another place, Facebook, Instagram. Of course, I don't get on Instagram a whole heck of a lot anymore. But Facebook messages that are like, what sound do I start with? How long do I let it play? What do I play after this? Then what should I play? So I've kind of for this year come up with a series, and I'm not trying to copy anybody or anything. They're not full stands sound files, but I'm going to call them CSDs, call shoot drag, to where it's going to help guys that are just getting into the game be able to. I've taken some of my most popular sounds and put them in one file the way I play them on a Coyote stand. So basically, just press play. They're 10 minutes long on average. I've got 5 of them done, ready to release. So new guys can, and then it's a learning tool that they're going to be able to, okay, so he'd play a how, answer with this how, then go to this how or this spray to stress or whatnot. So I'll take over about 10 minutes of their stand. And then if that don't work for them, they spend another 10, 15 minutes trying whatever they'd want to try.
Right.
So
That's awesome. That's a good idea.
yeah, call shoot drag files. So I'm going to call them. Wife helped me come up with that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to another year of, lots more recordings and new puppies and new puppy sounds. And because we're in the cycle now. That's what it takes to keep staying successful. New
Right.
sound, something different that they haven't heard.
Have you
There's
ever had that one sound, I guess, that you've just been sitting there when whatever, however you record them in your process, that you heard them make that sound and just instantly thought to yourself, that's going to be a killer? Do you
yeah,
have?
oh yeah. I got one called Getting Jiggy, and it is a killer. And when I was recording and yeah, I knew when I put them together with my headphones on
Right.
and listen to them. I'm like, I can't wait to use that one. And that's the satisfaction because they work, you know.
Right.
And even back to the ICO days when I recorded theirs, I recorded one called Uppercut, and it was a mixture of a bunch of different clips put together into one to create that knockdown drag out fight. It worked unbelievably well. And then just kind of tapered off. So that's this cycle of putting new sounds out there is just feeding you know, the demand of like I get a new sound because they're on to this sound that we had before. When you call in 4 and kill 1 or 2, those other 2, it's going to take something different to get them. And then whoever took the 2s you killed place, you're going to have to. It's just a vicious cycle. So I'm glad to be a part of the creating portion of it and providing those sounds to keep putting coyotes in the truck.
No, it's the one for guys like you that put in this time and effort into recording these sounds. And I mean, you're raising coyotes. I mean, that's
I know people are like delivery drivers and people in and out of my farm like, the heck are you doing with coyotes? And then I tell them, and they just kind of look at me like I'm weird. But I used to pour concrete. It's a hell of a lot better than pouring concrete.
I'd agree with that. That's what I do.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yep.
did it for 26 years. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that takes a toll. That takes a toll on the body. I'm a big guy. I'm 6'4", 300. I mean, but
It'll
uh,
make an old man out of you quick, won't it?
yeah, at the end of the year, I always tell Trav like it's wood shop season for you and it's hunting season for me, man. Like,
Yeah,
but there's not too many other professions. That's how I set my life up. Like I
yeah,
had a come to Jesus meeting and learning to myself like, man, there's more to life than you know, working Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Like, how can
Yeah.
what can I do to enjoy and take time off, spend with my wife and live life and do what I love? Tomorrow's not promised. So, and it's like, man, I can pour concrete, you know. I always
Same.
joke with those guys is they'll make fun of me like I'm no finisher, but I'm the best laborer you'll ever find. But I mean, but I can make enough money through the season to where,
To where you can hunt through the winter.
yep,
That's
come October 1st,
that's
everybody knows you are not going to find Zach until the end of turkey season. Like,
yeah.
I will disappear for 5 months. Like, I'm gone. Like, nobody will find me.
Hell yeah. Great life. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's it's what it's all about. Because like you said, we only live once.
Right.
Spend it pissing away working all the time.
Right.
So
Like, I
that's a
guess
whole
I went
that's
through
a
that
whole other,
phase of I went that phase of my life to where, yeah, jacked up fancy trucks and fancy this is all nice, but it's like, man, if I can hunt for half the year,
yeah.
and you know what? I'll drive my old '04 3/4 ton. I'm cool with that. Like,
Exactly, dude. Exactly. That's a whole different podcast there, huh?
it really is. Yeah, I could get deep on that. But yeah, it's just
Yeah.
what you want out of life, and
It's what it's all about, being happy.
you're
Yes,
exactly
sir.
right. Well,
For
I
sure.
appreciate you coming on and taking the time out of your day.
You're welcome. I appreciate the invitation.
It
Had a good
means a
time.
lot. And I'll have I'll have your information, I'll have your website and stuff linked down in the show notes of this
Okay.
podcast. That way anybody listening to this, they can just click on the link, go
Appreciate
straight to your website.
it.
Hopefully check out your calls because it is the season. I mean,
Yeah. Territorial season. That's what I call it. Territorial season. Need those vocals.
that's
Howls. Griff. I got Moto. I will say before we leave, Moto. Wife named him. But anyhow, that little booger has got he's got a howl on him that we're seeing just pisses him off. He's real high pitched. He's really choppy, aggressive type howler. Dude, we've killed coyotes on ground that, we were struggling on because they'd howl back to us, but would not come. And once I got Moto and he grew up, now he's juvenile this year yet, yearling. But throw his howls at him, hammer and hothead, geez, fires them up. They scream in then.
Moto.
Almost back to like what we were talking about earlier about aggressive coyotes coming in. That little punk does pull some aggression out of him because he's just so high pitched and mouthy. It's like, you little pipsqueak, I'll whip your ass. I know that's what they're thinking. And
And
then
that's what it takes, man. It seems like this time of year, like it's
yeah,
like, well, who do you think you are?
exactly. That's what it's about. Tell them that story, piss them off, and then introduce them to a six Creedmoor
Right.
or
One
two.
down the hatch.
Yeah. Yep. So, yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this. Did appreciate it. And
Hey,
ever anything you need, holler at me.
all righty. Sounds good, everybody. Thanks for listening. Remember, go shoot your guns, make sure you're sighted in, and go shoot straight. Thank you.